Hello, my name is Isaiah Shilling, and I want to ask you all a question. What is the most important natural resource to our modern society? You might think it's something like fossil fuels or metals, or even the essentials like water and air. And, well, you're right. Those things are all very important, so good job. But there is one other thing that most people don't think about, but it is also vital to our survival. There's another natural resource that is so fundamental to our society that we have come to rely on it, and it is called sand. Yes, it might seem so small and insignificant, but it's true. Because think about it. Sand is used to make concrete, right? Concrete is pretty much just sand and gravel glued together. But think about how much stuff is made from concrete, which in all our buildings and skyscrapers, which are all mostly made of concrete, it's one of the most essential building materials we have. And also the roads and sidewalks too, how we get around, the asphalt is also made from sand. But even outside of like big construction stuff, we also have silica sand, which we use in our daily lives. This is a type of sand that's made from high purity quartz. It's 95% silicon dioxide, and this is what we use to make the silicon chips in our computers and phones. It's also what we use for glass, because of course glass is just melted down sand. But that means all the big windows in those buildings that you see, that's all sand too. So yeah, there's sand everywhere, and it keeps showing up again and again and again. Like there's sand in paper too, to make it more durable, and in paint, there's sand to give it more structure. And in toothpaste, sand is there for better scrubbing. So our cities are practically made of sand, and our lives would look completely different without it. But as you can imagine, this means that we are using a lot of sand, like a lot. So actually, to put it into perspective, let me just tell you how much aluminum we use. Aluminum, one of the most commonly used metals, and we use about 70 million tons of it every year. For plastics, we use about 460 million tons. And we use 800 million tons of wheat every year. But do you know how many tons of sand we use each year? 50 billion. 50 billion tons of sand every year, according to the United Nations. That is enough to build a wall that is 27 meters wide and 27 meters high all the way around the world. That is a lot of sand. And, humans, we love to keep consuming more and more and make our cities bigger and bigger and bigger. But this means that the rate that we're consuming sand is increasing too. But the problem is, sand is only a finite resource. So as the demand for sand rises, the actual amount of sand that's left is shrinking. And this is a bad situation. Okay, that's not entirely true, okay, because look, there's plenty of sand in deserts, right? There's like all that sand there, there's plenty, right? No, because the thing about this sand is that we cannot actually use it. The sand that we like to use for construction is nice and blocky and angular, so it fits together nicely, but the sand in deserts has been blown around and eroded so much that all the grains are smooth and round. So like as you can see, these desert grains are all round, while sand that comes from rivers is like square and blocky. So it's like trying to build like a tower out of like building blocks versus marbles. Like it just doesn't work. So we cannot use desert sand. Now we have actually tried to like cut it to be like more the right shape, or even just go and make our own sand by like smashing rocks and stuff like that. But they don't work very well. It's also really hard and expensive, and basically that's just too much of a hassle to actually be worth it. So the best thing to do is to mine for the sand that's already there. So our main source of sand is riverbeds. Now we get our sand from rivers like all over the world, but here in Canada, we get a lot of it from places like Athabasca River, or the Mississauga River, or even right here in BC in the Fraser River. But of course, the sand mining we have to do is causing big, big environmental damage. And that's because like the way we get sand, well basically what they do is they send out a boat over the water, and it like sticks down a giant straw pretty much all the way to the floor, and it sucks up all the sand back up. But this is really bad because not only does it like completely tear up the seafloor, it also like mucks up all the water and makes it like muddy and gross. So all the fish and animals that are trying to live in there will suffocate and die. And over 2 million salmon have died because of this in the Fraser River. That's really sad. And according to the academic journal Science of the Total Environment, this has also led to the collapse of buildings, like the time the Mularapatna Bridge in India collapsed in 2018. That's because the river it went over, Falguni River, had so much sand extracted from it that the foundations that the bridge was built on just completely destabilized. And this happens a lot where like sand mining deepens and widens rivers so much that like buildings just collapse. They can't be supported anymore. And the reason that happens is because, well, look, when you have a nice smooth area of sand, it's fine, right? But once you mine the sand, then there's a hole. And so all the sand around it immediately rushes in to try and fill in the hole. But this means that there's less sand on the top. So by the time it gets smooth again, there's more sand under the water than there is above. And so, of course, if you repeat this a lot over a long period of time, then, eventually there's no more sand. And this is the reason why a lot of islands and beaches have actually been disappearing. One of the most notable examples is the Riau archipelago in Indonesia. That's it, right there. And actually 24 islands from this archipelago have disappeared because of sand mining. And this also happens in places like Cambodia, India, and Vietnam, and many more. Like beaches and islands just have the sand completely stripped away from them. And so yeah, at this point, we are really running short on places to get sand. It's actually gotten so bad that some people have turned to crime. Because you see, sand has become so valuable and so sought after that there have been actual gangs that form just to hunt down sand. They go around in secret and illegally mine for sand and then sell it on the black market. This is known as the sand mafia. And they are actually very dangerous. So let me tell you about a man, this man right here, named Jose Luis Alvarez. So he lived in Calatrava, Mexico, and he was a good guy. He was nice, and he was also an environmental activist. So one day, he decided to speak up about illegal sand mining in his town and called attention to the problems it caused. Good, right? But this also brought the attention of the sand mafia, and they did not like him. In fact, they sent him death threats over this. So Jose, he went to the authorities and asked for some protection, but they didn't really take him seriously. And on June 11, 2019, his body was found with 5 bullet wounds in his back. And this is not even a rare thing. Jose is just one of hundreds of people who have been killed like this. Like sand gangs from many places in the world have they've killed people, and they've tortured people too, like activists or journalists, like anyone who gets in their business, they kill them. They have hacked people to death, beaten people to death, they've even burned some people alive, all kinds of terrible stuff. And all of this over sand. So, yeah, it's really bad. It turns out that our need for sand is causing all these big problems, and it seems very bad, and it is bad. But there is hope. Because look, scientists are currently looking into alternatives for sand. If there's no good way to get more of it, then we can just use something else. So we've actually found that things like shredded plastic or shredded bamboo can work decently well as alternatives. But one of the most promising so far is mass timber. And this is pretty much wood, but it's a very special type of wood, where basically you take really thin planks of wood and stick them together with really strong adhesives or sometimes just nails. And so you take the small planks and make a big plank, and you use the big planks to build a big building. And this type of wood is actually really strong. It's as strong as steel, pretty much. And it's sustainable, so it's been getting a lot more popular in the last few years. And the great thing about this is that it's actually strong enough that it can be used in place of concrete. So we can build buildings without concrete, which of course means much less sand. And there is actually a building right in UBC, the Brock Commons Tallwood House. This is an 18-story student residence building, and it is built using mass timber. Good, this is progress. And mass timber is only one example of how our efforts can make a difference. So, maybe next time you're at the beach, just appreciate all that sand around you. Thank it for all it's done for you. And remember how big of an impact those little grains can make. And maybe carry that with you in your daily life too. Just being aware of how much you're constantly consuming can go a long way. And as an individual, you might feel small and insignificant, but it's true that we each have the power to contribute to a better future. And we need to try and solve this issue any way we can, because the situation is getting more dire every day, and the sands of time are running out. Thank you.